Katie, welcome to the show. We're so excited to have you here today and talk all things video. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. So good, excited to be here.
Yes, absolutely. Well, Katie, before we dive in, we have to ask you a very important marketing happy hour question. And that is, what is in your glass this morning, or what do you enjoy sipping on just on a regular basis?
Coffee. Today and every day.
Oh my gosh, love that. You're in good hands. I have water and I have a Celsius this morning. It's one of my forms of caffeine I consume.
Yep.
But yes, caffeine this morning is much needed. What about you, Erica?
Same. I have, my typical coffee, but then I also have a Health Aid kombucha because I haven't had this in so long.
And
I'm so
those.
excited. I know, they're my favorite. I actually, when they had a Black Friday sale a couple years ago, I went crazy on their website and they had like 50% off everything. And I think I had like 6 crates of kombucha shipped to my house.
That's awesome.
And it lasted me forever, and ever since then, I just haven't bought it. So we're back to the groove. We're in the kombucha groove now. I love it.
That's amazing.
Awesome. Well, Katie, like Cassie said, we're so excited to have you here today, and so excited to learn even more about Ecamm and how it can be beneficial for some of the brands that might be listening here too. So first, could you just share a bit about your background and how you kind of came into your role at Ecamm?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a copywriter originally. That's where I started my career. I went through school for English literature and ancient history of all things. So I fell into the copywriting space and was lucky enough to kind of be in that space right as social media was becoming a thing. So I have this kind of content marketing writing background. I joined Ecamm in 2019, mid 2019. I've known the co-founders for a really long time. They're friends of mine. They're twin brothers. If you're not familiar with Ecamm, and one of them owns a kids coding school here in the town that I live in. And so both my husband and myself have done a lot of work with that school. Our kids have attended a bunch of classes there, and so. Ken was like, we haven't done any marketing at all for Ecamm, and it's been growing pretty rapidly, and we think we're at a point now where we would just really love some marketing help, like someone to jump on and see what we might be missing and what the potential is. So I joined initially as a contractor, and then ended up joining full time back in 2019, which was great. And I knew nothing about video. I've done, I think, a ton of live streams where I've been like, I was the person that when the camera turned on, I was like under a chair, crying, heavy breathing. Like the idea of being on video was absolutely terrifying. I totally bailed on like the first few live streams I had to do. Like either one of the co-founders or like one of our other team members was like, do you want me to do this one? I was like, yes, I would like to be behind the scenes. So I've learned a ton over the last few years, and I've been lucky enough to work with just some absolutely amazing content creators and YouTubers and podcasters. So it's been a really wild ride.
Oh, awesome. Well, as we've teased, we're going to talk about all things video, and excited, as Erica said, to dive into more of the Ecamm features. And we're using Ecamm right now, which is exciting. So you can kind of see a visual example of how that works. But, one of the elements of video today is the just rage around video podcasts, right? They're becoming ever popular. We're right now recording a video podcast. More and more consumers are consuming video podcasts. So with that, what impact have you observed in terms of audience engagement and brand visibility with businesses switching from audio to video?
Oh my goodness. I mean, I would just say from the start, it vastly increases your reach and it opens you up to a whole new audience and a ton more opportunities, right? So, the podcasting space as far as audio goes isn't going anywhere. The audio side is like deeply personal. People love putting podcasts in their ears while they're, cleaning and out for a run and, doing all of their stuff. That's definitely a space that is continuing to grow and to stay there. But if you start with video and you kind of add in that video side, then you have the audio, right? So you're checking that box. It's harder to go from audio to video than it is to go from video audio, and then you're opening yourself up to people being able to see you. I mean, they've gotten to know you. It's a relationship that you're building with your listeners and with your viewers. So, giving them that perspective, and even just recording on the video side, like it's much more of an engaging conversation when I can see you both, right? Where I feel like I am kind of with you in that same space. I think in this post-pandemic world, it just makes for better content, and it gives your listeners and your viewers the opportunity to get to know you a lot better, to feel like you're welcoming them into your space. And then, and they're part of the experience with you.
Completely agree. And I'm curious to hear what kind of strategies or creative approaches have you seen that consistently will captivate those audience in the world of video podcasting, live video? Is it asking questions? Is it having people, comment or share their favorite moments with you? What have you seen worked in terms of audience engagement?
Yeah, so we've been on a mission for the last probably year and a half, maybe 2 years, to try to convince more and more podcasters to live stream their recording sessions. So like right now we're recording, so there's no one else watching. It's just us. We're hanging out here, and if anything happens, we can stop this recording. We can make any kind of adjustments. But I would challenge everyone to think through. Maybe you don't have to do this all the time, but the more you can kind of put that content out live and allow and welcome viewers into this, we jokingly call it the live studio audience. You give them the opportunity to be able to ask questions, to be part of the content creation process. So we do this with our podcast. We live stream our recording process out to YouTube. We have probably anywhere between like 20 and 50 of our diehard fans that join us every single week for recording, and they get the opportunity to ask questions. We do like a intro that's just for them, and then we do a Q&A at the end of every episode that's just for them. We trim that off for the actual like final episode, but I think it just really gives a little bit of a behind the scenes, like special exclusive experience for audience members who want to be part of that without sacrificing the content or making the experience weird for our podcast listeners or for our podcast viewers who are catching it later and are not part of that live experience.
Oh, I love that so much. We need to think through how we can do that with our Marketing Happy Hour Insiders group. They're like our diehard fans that we love so much. So we'll have to think through how we can do that in 2024. But I just wanted to hear from you too, how important is good lighting and audio quality, like good equipment for video content?
Oh my gosh. Well, it's hugely important, but if you're sitting there and you're like, it's also hugely expensive, and and everyone starts somewhere. So I would really challenge you to think through like what your goals are with your podcast. So if you're doing this for fun, or it's starting as kind of a side hustle, and you need to start gritty, then focus on audio first, because even if your video quality is terrible, if people can't hear you, obviously you don't have a podcast, you won't have any kind of listeners. So start with a USB microphone. If you can kind of step into that space, that's a great place to start. Shure has some really great products that are will allow you to grow with it. So they have a microphone that has a USB connection and also an XLR connection. So to let you kind of as you get more equipment, you can kind of level up your mic without having to reinvest, which is a good idea. As far as lighting goes, yeah, I mean, absolutely. If you can invest in some good lights, it does make a big difference. I mean, I'm here. I wish I had my other camera to show you, but I have a huge light over on this side, and then I have another one, over here. And obviously, that the video quality looks a lot better here when I'm in the studio versus when I'm at home. But at home, I have just a small studio light. I got it from Elgato. It wasn't overly expensive, and it does make a big difference when that's off. Lighting is pretty easy enough, if you spend a little bit of time with it. So I would challenge you, if you're getting kind of used to lighting, turn the camera on, record yourself so you don't have to be public in front of everyone else, but, record a little bit of video and take a look at the lighting. And then I literally, as I'm setting up, I touch my face. I'm like, okay, it's dark on this side. So where is that? As I'm looking at the camera, I'm like, okay, so that's this light. So I need to move a bit more lighting this way, or it's really bright on this side. So, you need to think through that and just move things around to get the right look and feel. And remember, if you're using natural lighting, which can look incredible, that's going to change, based on the time of day or the weather. So, if you're setting up for like, a recording or a show, just make sure that you're doing it consistently at the same time so that the lighting looks the same as when you tested it.
Those are definitely important nuances. I know there's a lot of people that we have surveyed in the past who say audio is a big one. If the audio is poor on the podcast, they just won't listen. They'll shut it off because it's almost a nuisance to pay attention to in that facet. So although we tell people all the time, with podcasting, you can kind of start small and low cost and build from there. But audio quality is a big one if you can make sure that's set when you start your show.
And it really doesn't need to be a fortune. Like if you can just get away from trusting the microphone that's either built into your headphones or your computer, that's going to be a huge difference. So just like literally one step up from what's built in will have a huge impact. And then things like controlling your space a little bit too. So making sure that you're in as quiet a space as possible. And then ideally that you're in like a space that allows for some kind of sound dampening. So, like, again, I'm in like in a really huge, used to be a yoga studio. So we've done a lot of work. It's still not perfect on trying to, put down like towels in different places. Like every reflective surface is going to send that sound back to you or make it feel echoey and big. So there's things you can do that are free that just, if you understand your equipment and gear better and understand kind of how your space can affect the quality of your show, it can really go a long way in making differences.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I want to dive a little bit deeper into live video specifically. A couple months back, we had a great conversation with Jeff C. and Lou Mangello, who I know both use Ecamm for their live shows specifically. And it's been so fun as a consumer to watch their shows grow and just the engagement and the different level of connection that you have with your audience through live video. So how do you see the landscape of live streaming evolving, and what role do you think it'll play in the future of content creation and marketing?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think that live streaming allows you to be really authentic and connects you directly with your audience, right? So you're seeing that feedback live. So, if something was happening that, if things went wrong, you could make really quick changes really, on the fly. If you wanted feedback from your audience, on a topic that was important to you or them, or you wanted to know like how the show is doing, you'd be able to get that feedback live. And it's just, I think, a really like fast and easy way to approach content creation. So, a big thing that I'm seeing, at the end of last year and certainly continuing into this year is that by and large, as marketers, we're all doing a lot. We're wearing a lot of hats. We're trying to, create these huge or multiple pieces of content. And so again, I would challenge if you can think about adding live streaming into kind of the top of your process. So like instead of recording everything, stream it, then you sort of give yourself permission and a little bit of forgiveness that things are not going to be flawless and perfect. And the audience by and large is okay with that. And then you are hitting a lot larger audience, right? Because then you have your live viewers, you have replay viewers. You're able to then maybe clip up your episodes and send clips out through social media. So you have all your social media followers who are engaging with your content. You have if you're stripping out the audio and using it in a podcast, you have your audio that's out. So it's harder to kind of go up to live streaming than it is to come down from live streaming. So I think more and more people are starting to incorporate live video into their larger content strategies and trying to keep it as close to the top of the creation process as possible so that it's easier to be able to leverage content that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and the one thing that Jeff and Lou mentioned, with live video is the fact that people get really excited seeing their names called out or their comments on the screen. So I know every time I listen into their shows, I stay tuned. I'm like, are they going to show my comment? Are they going to put it up on screen? It's just kind of fun to have that call out too. Yeah. So that's another level of that engagement, I think, with the audience versus pre-recorded, to your point as well.
Yeah, I mean, again, you get that immediate feedback, right? And you're inviting someone into your space where they know that you're there. It's not so heavily rehearsed that there might not, it feels much more real, I think, to the viewers. And again, they feel like they're part of it. They feel like they're part of the experience. They can, they can ask questions. They can, they can chat with each other. The majority of shows that we do for Ecamm, we have like obviously our audience are all content creators and video professionals and live streamers. So it's a very kind of different audience than the mass majority of people out there. But our audience like chats with each other too. And like, it's a time to kind of, again, which is why we call it in many ways our studio audience. Like it's an experience for them to be able to, spend time with their friends, that, they can ask questions with each other. It's a conversation that's happening alongside the show. It's almost like a watch party where you're able to get to know other people within the chat, as well as get to know the hosts and co-hosts and guests who are in the show itself.
For sure, for sure. Well, one facet of live video that I think is taking off, and we're just seeing selling and product shopping across all platforms just go through a boom right now. And we have a lot of marketers in the product space listening and looking for ways to engage their customers even further. But live selling is gaining traction right now, and it's a powerful e-commerce tool. And so what potential do you feel like this has for businesses, and how can marketers leverage live selling effectively?
Yeah, I mean, again, it goes back to this notion of inviting your customers into your space, right? So you're giving of yourselves as a business or as a brand or as marketers, and kind of welcoming them in and showing them the products or services in a way where they can see and engage and be able to ask questions and get all the information that they need, where they feel like they're talking to you directly. So it really is a similar feeling as to if someone goes into an actual physical store and is able to talk with the people and see the product and be able to engage with it. So I think there's a ton of potential there. Again, I think it also gives I hate to keep using the word authenticity, but it does kind of give like an authentic side, right? So it's hard to fake or jazz up, a live stream or a live selling experience, right? Like you can really kind of get an understanding of what that product or what that service is like in a way that feels more real and believable to customers. So you're breaking through some of the marketing kind of commercialism and really feeling like you're able to speak directly to either the creator of the product or the company or the brand itself.
For sure. Well, I know someone may be listening and they say, this sounds awesome. I want to activate on this for my brand, but how do I come up with a concept for a show? Or even, if it's not a podcast, just a live show in general. I know Jeff has mentioned his show is not podcast, it's just a live show straight up. And so how do we kind of brainstorm for what to create? And then any tips around getting creative with just content each week or each month, however frequently you're putting a show out, to figure out what to talk about and what to share with your audience through your show?
Yeah, I mean, we live in such a cool time, right? Because we have so many tools at the ready to be able to help with this kind of process. But I would say if you can start with the questions that your customers have, like how you can help the people on the other end. So whether that's, audience or potential audience or customers, or maybe it's a mix of both, but, what solutions can you offer them? What advice can you give them? And start with your larger topic. And then, you can use tools like AI to be able to help kind of build that out. What are common questions around podcasting that people want to know, right? That was one of the first questions that we put into ChatGPT as we were starting our show, right? Like what do people want to know about video podcasting? What are common questions people have about video podcasting in 2024? And see what those questions are that come out. And, each one of those questions could itself be an episode, right? And then you're solving a problem for someone, it's something that it's information that people are looking for or that people want to have. So I would approach it from the questions standpoint, unless you're doing something that is like more of an entertainment value. I do, for example, a fun podcast with my best friend where we're literally just reviewing movies from the 90s. So we do, a different 90s movie every single week. And then at the end of the episode, we actually ask our live viewers who, what their favorite 90s movies were, what we should review next. And that's how we plan out our next episode. So It depends, I guess, on what your larger topic is, but I would start with the questions.
Yeah, that's excellent advice. And I love that you said you have that fun podcast too. I feel like that's always good to have like a business thing to listen to and then like something just for fun. I love that. Okay, so we're still in like the first part of this new year, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts on the future of video content creation and marketing. What do you think we can see in 2024 that's something we haven't really seen in the past, or maybe it's just a continuation of something that we've seen in the past?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we're going to see sort of a simplification of workflows. I think, as I said, there are a ton of marketers out there and podcasters and content creators who have just been doing a lot. They're recording videos, and then they're also recording their podcasts, and then they're also writing blog posts, and they're also creating short videos that they're using in all these different places, and they need to do social media. There's all these different hats that people are wearing, and I think that as we get better and as there are more tools available, people are looking for and trying to learn how to simplify that entire workflow. And merge a lot of these formats into kind of one process. So we do this podcast for Ecamm called The Flow. It's a video podcast. As I said, we stream it to YouTube. And the entire concept of that show is that if you can create a really seamless, simple workflow, then it's really easy to have that, kind of lead your content strategy. And then each piece of content just really comes from that entire process. So, again, we live stream to YouTube, and then, so that we're checking that live viewers box, we're engaging with our audience, we're getting ideas for future episodes. Then once that video is, once we're done that live streaming process, then we do some, simple edits to that video, and then it becomes our video podcast and our audio podcast, and it goes out to, syndicated to all of the podcast players. And then we're able to grab the transcript and put that through AI tools and write a blog post or PDF content from it. We're able to clip it up using a ton of different tools to be able to, populate our social media channels. So from one weekly live stream, we're able to kind of create this really simplified, streamlined process where we're able to populate content across a ton of different places and a ton of different formats, so that each audience is able to receive the content in the way that they are looking for, and in the way that works best for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I know from, bird's eye view, all of this sounds great, but it sounds like a lot of work, right? So to be able to create this efficient process of taking this live video or this recorded podcast and projecting it out in a number of different platforms and in ways for your audience, I think that's huge. And it makes your work a lot more worth it and goes a long way too. So it's awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Well, Katie, as we round out this conversation, we have to infuse a little bit of career advice into our conversation today. So we have to ask another one of our favorite questions to you. But that is, what do you know now that you wish you knew early on in your career?
Oh my goodness. This was a hard one. You guys sent these questions in advance, and I was like, I'm going to give this some thought, and I still don't know if I have a great answer. I think it really comes down for me to the people and the connections and relationships that you have, which I don't know if I didn't know that when I was younger or newer in my career, but I guess I didn't really fully appreciate the importance of it. So building out those connections and not being hesitant to spend time to get to know people better, whether that's through, LinkedIn conversations or networking events or opportunities, or going out to, conferences and events in person. But the relationships that I've made over the years have not only given me, more and more opportunities, but they really have defined my career. And I would not be capable of hardly anything that I'm accomplishing today without, the support of great friends and colleagues who are there to answer questions and to offer advice or to let me know what they're up to and bounce ideas off of. So yeah, I think that's probably my best tip.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. I think that's such a common thing is when you graduate college, you're no longer in the sphere of people in your, clubs and people in your organizations and your teachers and stuff. And you have to kind of cultivate those relationships after college. And it's so important you think about it. But then they end up leading to, all of the career opportunities and really amazing opportunities that you can have in the future. So I always love hearing that from people. But Katie, thank you again for joining us today. This has really,
My
truly
pleasure.
been great. But we want to let everyone know where they can find you, follow along with what you're up to now. Where are you online?
Well, so you can find me under any of Ecamm's channels. So if you look ECAMM, we are all over the different social channels. Obviously, a huge YouTube presence there. If you want to find me personally, my Instagram is Canadian Fawkes, Fawkes. And as I said, I host a just for fun '90s movie podcast. So if you want to come hang out and talk about '90s movies, you're welcome to follow that along. That's the VHS Club podcast at VHS Club pod.com. But yeah, all over in the Ecamm space. And if you're sitting here and you're like, I would really love, advice to get started, or, want to ask a ton more questions about lighting or video equipment, or, how Ecamm works, Ecamm has a really robust community that we call the Ecamm fam. Everyone is welcome, whether or not you're an Ecamm customer. So if you want to ask some of those questions or practice or try, or just spend time with other content creators, you can find that by going to Ecamm, ECAMM.tv/community, and that'll take you into a Facebook group where we have just lots of really super friendly people we love calling the Ecamm fam.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Katie, again. And we're excited to keep using Ecamm and dive further into this platform, and definitely inspired to go live a little bit more in 2024 as well. So thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.